One best practice that I think is particularly useful for the discussion in capacity for dev on the Nexus, the Humanitarian-Development-Peace Nexus, is the recent fund that we have launched in Myanmar. We call it the Nexus Response Mechanism. It's a new fund. We just signed it up in December, so we'll start implementing in 2020. And this fund has three main features which I think are particularly interesting. First, it has a governance mechanism by which all decisions are consulted with our colleagues in the political section and the ECO office in Myanmar. So there is a consultation process where both DEVCO, I am working for DEVCO in the delegation, the humanitarian colleagues and the political section participate in all decision making and in the joint analysis of the conflict situation. Nonetheless, the decisions of anything that concerns the funding under this mechanism is made by DEVCO because we have the financial responsibility for this decision making. Second feature, which I think is very interesting, is that it has a lot of flexibility. This fund will allow us to initiate activities that we are not very sure where they will take us in certain contexts where we don't know how the conflict will evolve. By funding these initiatives, we will understand whether they can go ahead after 1 year of implementation and they can be scaled up. If the initiative is working in the right direction and is compliant with due diligence principle and human rights, then we can scale it up and make it larger. If it doesn't work because the context of the conflict is changing, then we can stop the action and we can move funding from one place to the other. I think this flexibility is fundamental to work in this context. Otherwise, we are confronted with long-term programs that are unable to adapt to the ever-changing situation in the conflict of Myanmar, which, as you know, is both related to the oppression of the Rohingya community, but also there is a number of issues with IDPs in conflict areas. The third feature that I think is key, it's the capacity of the fund to have what we call third-party monitoring. Basically, we'll have a team of experts which are not competing for funding and which will be analyzing the programs that we will fund under a due diligence and conflict perspective, but also monitoring on the ground regularly, quarterly, the implementation of the activities. Conflict, it's always, as I said, uncertain, so we have to make sure that our implementing partners are complying with these principles, and not because they're not acting in good faith, but because often the conflict changes so quickly, the context is evolving so quickly, that they are unaware of how its operation is related to the policies and the environment where they operate. So this third-party monitoring will also inform the decision-making of, as I said, DEVCO, ECO, and the political section, so that we will have our own source of information that is ensured by the delegation. The other advantage is that we will not depend on other people's information. Right now, we rely too much on UN or NGO or other donors' sources of information. By having this third-party monitoring, this analytical capacity, we'll have our own source of information, and we could also tailor conflict analysis to the needs of the delegation itself.